Hello. Today we'll be talking about scapegoats and their role in a narcissistic family. In a narcissistic family, everyone has a role to play. One of those roles is the scapegoat. The scapegoated child is the one that's bullied and blamed for all the family's problems and dysfunctions. The scapegoat is accused of having the flaws that their narcissistic parent has, not the child. This is called projection, when you accuse another person of having the flaws that you have, when in reality that other person doesn't have those flaws at all. The scapegoat child is not given things freely but grudgingly. Often this even includes necessities like food and clothing. Any achievements of a scapegoated child are often ignored or criticized. They also may be sabotaged. A narcissistic parent may say suddenly they can no longer afford to continue paying for your piano lessons. Or after you reach a milestone with the lessons, they may suddenly give away your favorite toy. Anything they can do to ruin your joy and success with playing the piano. If the scapegoated child looks like the narcissist's spouse, this can be problematic for the child, especially if the marriage is rocky to begin with. The abusive parent may blame the child for her marital problems and see the child as a traitor if the child wants to have a relationship with that side of her family. This happened to me. I look nothing like my mother's family. I look like my father's mother, my grandmother. My mother hates her in-laws, so this bothers her to the point she won't even admit to seeing any resemblance, even though everybody else who knew us sees it. My mother also kept me from spending any time with that side of my family during my entire childhood. People outside of the immediate family are often told stories about the terrible things a scapegoat child has done. These lies protect the image of narcissistic parents. Obviously the child is the one doing the bad, wrong things, not the parents. They instead look like the good, long-suffering parents putting up with a terrible child. Often it's the parents who scapegoat a child, but if there are several children, other siblings may follow their parents' example and join in on the scapegoating. Narcissistic parents don't want their children to get along, so they encourage any kind of strife between the kids that they can, and that includes scapegoating. If there are no siblings, the only child is often the scapegoat, as I was. Sometimes parents treat their only child as a scapegoat, with periodic times of being the golden child. Personally, I didn't receive that treatment, but I can only imagine how confusing it must be as a child to go back and forth between these totally opposite roles. As an adult, the scapegoated child often suffers from a great deal of toxic shame, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem or even self-loathing, addictions, and in many cases they can even be suicidal. The scapegoated child often grows up with a tiny bit of approval when they fail, so as adults they often self-sabotage in order to gain that approval from their parents. Basically, instead of living up to their parents' expectations, they aim to live down to them. They also tend to be overly responsible, taking on responsibility for other people's happiness, well-being, and other things that they shouldn't be responsible for. They also have difficulty trusting their ability to make decisions, thanks to a lifetime of gaslighting. Good thing about a scapegoat is usually we are the first ones to recognize the dysfunction of the family and escape it. Scapegoats are usually the strongest member in their immediate family, which is why they were chosen for that role. A strong person is needed to carry off those burdens. After a lifetime of abusive behavior, the scapegoat wants some answers, and that often leads them discovering narcissistic personality disorder. So once you learn about scapegoating, what can you do? I always recommend prayer as the best place to start in any situation. Ask God to help you with whatever you need, to give you strength, comfort, the ability to see the truth that you are not to blame for everything wrong in your family, whatever you can think of you need. You also need to know there isn't anything you can do to stop being treated this way from your family. No one can change another person's behavior. All you can do is set and enforce good boundaries and refuse to accept the blame. If you have to have some sort of confrontation, though, always be sure to state your case as calmly as possible, or else they'll accuse you of being irrational and crazy. You also can't change anyone's opinion of you, so probably you're going to be the scapegoat forever in their minds. What you can do about their opinion, though, is refuse to accept it as your own. Remember, that person's opinion is theirs, and it does not need to become yours, too. Form your beliefs about yourself based on real evidence, not what your dysfunctional, abusive family have said about you. Ask God to show you who He has made you to be. Listen to things people who genuinely love you have to say about you. And never forget, you are strong to survive being a scapegoat. It is not an easy position to be in, but you survived it. If you could survive all that shaming, rejection, abuse, you could certainly survive the recovery. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.